Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Thursday, November 13th, 2014 edition of Wrestle Talk Show. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, anything and everything wrestling. We cover it. First and foremost, like we stated before, instead of doing a video every day, we're going to do it, every 48, every 72 hours, and bring you a compilation of the last 3 days and the current day's news as it comes out. This is as of 8:12 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's move into it, shall we? Pull up the tab. Edge comments on the Attitude Era, WWE Network, Zion, and Christian's possible retirement. AlternativeNation.net has up a new interview with WWE Hall of Famer Adam Edge Copeland. In the interview, Edge criticizes aspect of the Attitude Era, gives his thoughts on possible John Cena heel turn, gives his thoughts on Christian's future, discusses the chair shots and concussions, the WWE Network not working for him, surprise, surprise, his respect for Zion, how WWE could improve its PG product if he'll ever return to the WWE, the Hardy Boys, and his thoughts on WWE's last-minute booking changes. You can view the full interview at, again, AlternativeNation.net. But here are the highlights. Edge on the WWE Network and TNA's Sami Zion. Quote, "They finally gave me the WWE Network once they asked me to do a show on it. They said, quote, 'Do you want it, by the way?' I said, yeah, sure, why not? But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to want to work up here in Canada. Every time I try to watch something on it, it just freezes. So I haven't really watched it a whole lot. I haven't really watched a whole lot of stuff before it was on the network. Before it was on the network, it was on Sports Central up here. And if I was home from set, I would try to watch it Thursday nights. Then it got taken off Sports Central. I got the network, and the network didn't work. So it's kind of been out of my hands. I haven't been able to watch it. But I know Sami Zion. I've known him a couple of years now, but I've always enjoyed what he's done when he was El Generico too. Christian on his possible retirement. Well, he's my best friend, so I know what's going on with him more than anybody else. But he's at a kind of a point where you sit back and you look and go, okay, I'm definitely closer to the end of my career than the beginning. After a while, your body just starts telling you this is a difficult job to do. When you're in your 20s and you think you're indestructible, you can bounce back, but it gets harder when you start climbing into your 40s. That was good. His thoughts on the Attitude Era. I do think what's been good. I do think what's been good, people are always talking about the Attitude Era and all of this and all of that. But if you watch back, sometimes the matches weren't that great because we had 2 minutes. It's not possible to have a good match in 2 minutes. You can't tell a story. You can tell a haiku. Since the PG era, I know when I was in matches, I had a half hour, sometimes 20 minutes. There I can tell a story. To me, that's the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. It all boils down to the wrestling at the end of the day. The Attitude Era was a lot about the hijinks backstage, and the matches kind of got forgotten about. It's looked with rose-colored glasses because the ratings were good and it was working for obvious reasons. But to me, the obvious reasons were characters I like, Stone Cold, who would then get in and have a long match at a pay-per-view. Characters like The Rock, who would be entertaining, but still at the end of the day, they could go. They could go. I think now you need a little bit of both. So it's wrestling and storytelling again. And I hate to keep going in circles on certain topics, but there's certain things that you guys know by now. You can follow us again at youtube.com/CWE Company. We're doing the best we can to work out the kinks. This is another channel. You can subscribe to it if you want. This channel is linked to where Wrestle Talk Show started. You can email us at joshuarzimmerman@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CWE Company. And listen to all my rants. But one thing I was overly critical about over the years is the storytelling. And Edge is right. You can't really do much in a 2 to 5 minute time frame when they want you to build a story. And with you can't have 20-minute openers. Like I criticize Raw now being the 3-hour product that it is, that it actually boils down to it's still the same 2-hour product, but it's actually the third hour compensates for the 45 to 60 minutes of advertising, which is all well and good, but if you're going to get that solid 2 hours, before it was 2 hours and they had to accommodate for their advertising, and it was what, an hour and a half, an hour of wrestling with 20 minutes of promo given throughout the show. But go back to the wrestling. Don't reinvent the Attitude Era. Again, the Attitude Era is gone, but go back to the wrestling, tell a story. You can do both, and you can tell the story in the wrestling, and the fans will appreciate you for that, WWE. I'm very critical on the product now because, no, you can't reinvent the Attitude Era. We all want it to come back. We all want The Rock to come back full time. This, that, and the other thing. But it's not going to happen. Another podcast you can check out is the Stone Cold Steve Austin Show. Great insight to the business. Anybody that wants to know about it, I encourage you to listen to it on iTunes. You can probably find clips of it or entire shows on YouTube. I don't really need to YouTube it because I can iTunes it. But, yeah, I agree with Edge. Going back, without going into another rant altogether, you need to be able to mix the story in with the wrestling and vice versa. And it just seems that anymore, WWE wants to get its promos out of the way and then try and give you an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours worth of product. But if you think about it, between advertising, backstage hijinks, and all the other crap that's factored in, you don't even really get 2 hours on a 3-hour program. And what did we break down? WWE gets, outside of the network, which is 24/7, WWE gets 8 hours of primetime cable programming, and then the rest of it's on the network or back channels. So in that 8 hours, for them they need to get rid of the brand split, first of all. Raw competing with SmackDown and vice versa is just stupid. It goes back to a couple shows ago or last show where I said you can buy ECW and WCW all you want, but then don't say that you have no competition because you chose to make it that way. Vince McMahon and WWE, you chose that you wanted to be the monopoly in the wrestling business, which is fine. But again, I say, you could have bought them. Vince McMahon could be the head kahuna, and you could still make it look like you're competing with them. Those management people would just work for Vince McMahon. Simply put. Moving on. Edge comments on the network not working for him. I haven't watched it a whole lot. They finally gave me the WWE Network. Once they asked me to do a show on it, they said, "Do you want it, by the way?" I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to want to work up here in Canada. Every time I try to watch something, it just freezes. So I haven't really watched a whole lot of stuff. Before it was on the network, it was on Sports Central up here. And if I was home from set, I would try to watch it Thursday nights. Then it got taken off Sports Central. I got the network, and the network didn't work. So it's kind of been out of my hands. I haven't been able to watch it. Wrestling news. WWE legend Kamala hospitalized, and we have the reason why. WWE legend James Kamala Harris had been hospitalized for an unknown condition. Kamala had been hospitalized in Mississippi due to a case of peritonitis. Peritonitis, which led to an infection in the membrane that lines the stomach. Kamala had stomach surgery a few days ago and has been recovering in the ICU ever since. This is as of November 11th. Bret Hart Q&A. Thanks to WrestlingInc.com reader Gavin Home for sending in the report, in which we're going to use. Again, we encourage you to visit not our affiliates, but our friends, SmartWrestlingFan.com, PWTorch.com, WrestlingInc.com, and their related audio shows, this, that, and the other thing. All three of them do a great job of covering the world of professional wrestling, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's called An Evening with Bret Hart. Q&A at Leicester City Football Club. Part 2 of the report is at WrestlingInc.com. Just to give you the highlights, Hart discussed problems with the British Bulldog heading into their epic main event at SummerSlam. Wrestlers crapping in Jerry Lawler's crown, working with Steve Austin and blading him for the first time, and more. Bret discussed his WWE return, his best opponent, a gross Yokozuna story, the current product, and more. They went in to discuss the Montreal Screwjob, and Bret said that his biggest mistake was in trusting Earl Hebner. He said that he had spoken to Earl the night before, and that Earl had swore on his kids that he wouldn't let them screw Bret over. He did say that his anger towards Earl had faded very quickly, and after that, only a few weeks he understood that Earl had been given a raw deal. He said that Earl had been mic'd up and that they told him that if he tried to alert Hart in any way that he would be fired. Hart said that he wasn't happy about it, but he could understand Earl's position. Bret said that after the match, he had destroyed half a dozen of the TV monitors and had thrown commentators' headsets into the crowd, and later found out that each headset was worth approximately $110,000 each. He said that he has taken a lot of stick from the wrestling fans for his actions after the match, because they believe he shouldn't have acted the way he did and shouldn't have been so invested in his character. Hart said that he is the only person who knows how he truly felt at the time, and that he felt heartbroken. He commented that when he returned through the curtain after the match, Vince had locked himself in his room, and Hart tried to shoulder the door open, but realized that the door was a heavy-duty door, and he would never be able to break it down. As though nothing had break it down. He said that at this point he calmed down and thought nothing had happened, as though nothing had happened, and went to the locker room to get changed. He said that as he approached the locker room, someone someone who he still does not know, who speculated either Hunter or Sean, had moved his bag and clothes out into the hallway, so he had to pick them up and walk into the locker room. He said that this was the point that you see on the Wrestling with Shadows documentary where Sean is saying, "I swear to God, I had no idea." Bret said that he was 99.9% certain that Sean had been in on it, but didn't want to do anything in case he was wrong. He said he sent the documentary makers out into the hall because at this point he was sick of them for trailing him everywhere, and was actually a little annoyed by them too. He did say, though, that he appreciated them for the documentary and wishes he had let them stay. He said that he then went and showered, and that Davey Boy Smith had borrowed his towel. So as he was showering, he knew he had no dry towel. Afterwards, he elaborated that Davey Boy was always going to the events without shampoo and towels, etc., and would frequently borrow Bret's, as his matches were always before Bret's on the card, so it became a little bit more of a running joke with them. He said that while he was showering, both Davey Boy and Rick Rude confronted him and told him that Vince was waiting to speak to Bret. Bret told them that he didn't want a problem, but if Vince was there when he came out, there would be a problem, and so he asked them to relay the message. He said that both Rude and Smith were excited and giddy at this point, and he could see that they were eager to see the fallout. He said that they returned after a few minutes and told him that Vince had said he was going nowhere until he talked to Bret. Bret said that he believes that McMahon was trying to show the other wrestlers that he could stand up to anyone, and that he was trying to give a, quote, "don't cross the boss" type lesson to the locker room. Hart said that because Bulldog had borrowed his towel, he had to walk past McMahon completely naked, and toyed with the idea of confronting Vince straight away, but thought the image of a naked Bret Hart fighting with the boss was too silly, so he went to get dressed. He said that as he got dressed, he told McMahon to get out, and took his time to get dressed, as he knew he was going to punch him. He said that eventually he was completely dressed and had nothing left to put on, so he realized it was time to do or die and walk towards McMahon. He said that they actually locked up in a collar and elbow tie-up, and he remembers having his hand on McMahon's padded suit shoulder. He said that behind him was Rude, Owen, Neidhart, and Bulldog, and McMahon. And McMahon had Briscoe, Slaughter, Shane, Undertaker, and Michaels behind him. He said that at this point, Michaels had his head in his hands, crying like a little girl. Bret said that he was just about to reach his arm back and swing at McMahon, and he realized that if he did, then someone would likely grab his arm and hold him back, so he would never get the chance again. So, in a split second, he decided to hit him with an uppercut. He said that he connected his right hand on McMahon's jawbone, lifting him about 6 inches off the ground and breaking his hand in the process. He said that he broke the bones in the bottom of his hand, just behind his pinky finger. He said that he was surprised when he saw that McMahon was out cold and turned and went and sat down. He said that Shane McMahon went and propped Vince up into a seated position, and Bret told him to get McMahon out of his sight or he would beat the hell out of him. Shane dragged Vince to the other side of the room and sat him on a bench, and Bret warned him again, and he said that Shane said he didn't believe him. At this point, Bret picked up his knee brace and walked towards Vince again, preparing to swing it. He said that Shane, Slaughter, and Briscoe dragged McMahon out of the room, and again, this is where the Wrestling with Shadows documentary kicks in and shows Vince being helped out of the room. Bret said that he looked at Shawn, who was bent over, double crying into his hands, and the thought crossed his mind that he could kick him right in the head there, and his head was the perfect height for a punt. He said he hesitated, but approached Shawn and tapped his arm, held out his hand to shake it, and said, "Thanks for the match." He said Shawn buried his head again in tears, and that was the moment he knew for sure Shawn had been in on it. Bret then said that he considers punching McMahon one of his greatest achievements. Bret said that Jim Neidhart broke the tension in the locker room after the Hitman had knocked out Vince McMahon by saying, "I guess they just aren't going to say anything to me about breaking TVs anymore." And this led to the whole locker room, Shawn included, busting out in laughter. Hart elaborated that Neidhart had been released at the end of his tag run with Owen 93 and 94 because he had picked up a large 20-inch monitor and had hurled it at someone while they were having an argument. Hart said that Neidhart had a lot of physical upper body strength and that he had been a shot putting champion before his wrestling career had started. Hart said that because the monitor was an expensive one, it had cost Neidhart his job, and he cracked the joke because at the end of the screw job, Hitman had destroyed multiple television monitors at ringside. Again, you can read that whole interview, part 1 included. That was just a highlight at alternativenation.net. Was Raw hurt by being a taped event? Monday Night's Raw, a taped show from Liverpool, England, drew 3.93 million viewers, down 3% from last week's 4.04 million viewers. For this week's show, the first hour drew 4.018 million viewers. For the second hour, drew 3.943 million viewers. And the final hour drew 3.831 million viewers. Raw was the highest rated show on cable behind the NFL's Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football with the Carolina Panthers versus the Philadelphia Eagles drew an 11.905 million viewers. Alberto Del Rio comments on why WWE is trying to replace Rey Mysterio and how Mysterio had helped him in the WWE. With the summer release of Alberto Del Rio, the WWE has a major void as it pertains to a Latino star. After a decade with Rey Mysterio leading the way, the star became injury prone, and the company looked to replace him. Del Rio spoke with WrestleTalk TV about the shift. He was trying to replicate the success of Mysterio. Quote, "There's nobody bigger than Rey Mysterio. He's the biggest superstar to ever come out of Mexico, Del Rio said, quote, "My wife even said, Rey Mysterio is God and you are the devil. Even my wife put me in second place." Del Rio became the company's first Mexican-born champion and had a successful run, including a feud with Mysterio. However, his popularity never reached the levels in which Mysterio's did. Quote, "He's an amazing guy. He gave me the opportunity to be in WWE," Del Rio said. He said that, quote, if he was going to do the job, he said that if he was going to do the job, I was the guy he wanted to do it for. Mysterio and the WWE have had an estranged relationship as of late, as Mysterio has no desire to return to the promotion. He planned on letting his contract expire, but WWE extended it due to the injury clause. Mysterio also reportedly asked for his release in April and made it known that last week that... Alright, hold on! One second. Kristen, do you want Frozen on?
No, this one! That one is... It's a nice one.
What do you want on?
That one. I want that one. I want that one. I want me. And I want me 3, 4, 8. And I want me. And it's green rose.
Kristen, you had this movie.
I do.
You want to watch it?
Yeah, I want to.
But still, very strong.
Why don't you watch the Lego movie?
No, it's not. It's not $3 for it.
Kristen, it's not working.
Oh, Jesse, just don't put that on. Oh, what the was move it?
You... Hold on.
What?
You want my own movie?
No.
You want Brave?
No.
What do you want to watch?
I want strawberry. Don't say that.
There you go. Here's strawberry.
Stop.
Sorry about that, guys. Moving on. He planned for his release in April and made it known last week that he doesn't plan for wrestling for WWE again. Dixie Carter comments on possible new TV deal and doesn't really comment on it at all. If you look at her tweet, she responded to a wrestling fan's question of when will TNA announce the TV deal. She responded back with, quote, soon. GPW comments, Jeff Jarrett's GPW comments on Jim Ross. Jim Ross signs to call Global Force Wrestling's presentation of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestling Kingdom 9 on January 4th. From Nashville, Jim Ross, the prominent voice of professional wrestling for the past 4 decades, has agreed to provide the play-by-play for Global Wrestling's presentation of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestling Kingdom 9 live on pay-per-view in North America on January 4th, 2015. The Hall of Famer has called more pro wrestling pay-per-view events than any other broadcaster and is regarded as the greatest play-by-play announcer in wrestling history. He will be returning to the mic at one of the biggest events in the world. This is the 24th year of New Japan's annual extravaganza at the Tokyo Dome, where more than 40,000 fans from around the world are expected to attend. A quote from Ross: "I am truly honored and excited to have been asked to be a part of this historic event," Ross said. "To be able to return to my roots and to provide the play-by-play for an amazing pro wrestling product will be special. I never thought I'd ever return to ringside for a wrestling event, but this opportunity was just too special to turn down." GPW founder and CEO Jeff Jarrett, that makes him sound bigger, said that he had been working on lining up Ross for weeks. Quote, "When you think of the great events in wrestling over the past 30 years, one of the things they have in common is the man behind the microphone. And that man is Jim Ross," Jarrett said. Quote, "I'm excited for this event, and I'm excited for good old JR to be a part of it. GPW fans wanted him, and from day one we have said we're going to give our fans what they want. The show, which will air live at 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific, and re-air in prime time at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, is available on DirecTV, Dish, AT&T, Uverse, Comcast, Verizon Fios, and all cable systems in the United States and in Canada on Bell Express, VUTV, Rogers Shaw, Saskatell, and TELUS. Check your local listings for availability. The show will also be available on Flip's app on iTunes and Android. This year's card is headlined by an IGWP heavyweight title match between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada, the Bullet Club, of which Jarrett is a member, along with AJ Styles, and IWGP Tag Team Champions Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows will appear as well. Heyman comments on why he praised CM Punk during a WWE Network special. Paul Heyman praised CM Punk during last night's, again, this was all written up on the 11th, so it was November 10th that this aired, during last night's live ECW Exposed special on the WWE Network. Heyman talked about stars that he wanted in ECW and said he wanted to build the 2006 version around Punk. A photo of Punk was shown, and Heyman said Punk would have done very well in the original ECW. The Miami Herald Scott Fishman pointed this out on Twitter. Quote, "Paul Heyman with Hitzpah to mention CM Punk on WWE TV and stand behind his opinion that he is the best in the world. Hashtag ECW Exposed. Hashtag best in the world." Heyman replied, "At SM Fishman, I praised CM Punk live on Raw in Chicago when he and WWE had just parted ways. And by the way, hashtag best in the world, BITW, best in the world, now, then, and forever." The Rock, even more unlikely to have a match at WrestleMania, surprise, surprise, this after his surprising October 6, 2014 return. The Rock is signed on to co-star in Central Intelligence, a film with comedian Kevin Hart. Filming is set to kick off next spring, which is the heart of WrestleMania season. In addition to the filming schedule, The Rock will also be heavily promoting the upcoming Furious 7 picture, which looks to be a huge blockbuster. It remains possible that The Rock could perform at the annual WWE extravaganza and promote all of his products simultaneously, but it remains to be seen if Universal Pictures would condone that. During The Rock's last WrestleMania match in 2013, he sustained an injury in which reduced his promotional schedule for pain and gain, and also caused him to miss the movie's premiere. The two film roles aren't The Rock's only upcoming obligations either. He'll be starring and serving as an executive producer for the HBO TV series Ballers, which also sets the kickoff in 2015. Lita talks about WWE Divas veteran Lita talks about working with younger talent, WWE stock, and WrestleMania pre-sale, along with comments from The Miz. The Miz tweeted following about his wife Maurice being featured in WWE's new Power Couples poll, which Wrestling Inc. posted earlier this week. Quote, Maurice and my relationship hasn't been on TV yet. We are ranked as a WWE power couple. Keep voting and maybe you'll see #MarMiz. WWE stock was down 3.83% today, meaning yesterday, closing at $12.79 a share. Today's high was $13.36 a share, and the low was $12.78. Another code which is usable for today, guys, November 13th, 2014. Another code for the WrestleMania 31 pre-sale, which begins, you can use this code at noon Eastern time, is TWEETS. That's TWEETS. ABC2News.com recently looked at Maryland Championship Wrestling and how Hall of Famer Lita has been working with the women's wrestlers there. To summarize some of what she did, quote, it's been great to see MCW still going strong. They saw something special in me, and I slept on their couches many nights when I was coming up in the independent scene. I'm glad to be able to give back to them and my fans now in a way I was never able to in the WWE. I'm really enjoying the chance to get up close and personal with the fans and up and coming wrestlers. It's given me the chance to see how many lives I've impacted, and that's pretty special. I was in the WWE during a special time when female wrestlers were given a chance to shine. I'm just now getting the chance to reflect on my career and what I've accomplished. Now I have a chance to give back and help the next generation reach their goals too. So way to go for Lita and that. Samoa Joe vacates the X Division title. After last week's injury angle, Samoa Joe announced on this week's show that he was not cleared to compete and won't be for some time. Joe announced that he will vacate the X Division title. Next week's show will feature Low-Key versus Crazy Steve, DJ Zema, Ion, and Manic going at it to crown a new champion. Rey Mysterio for a possible WrestleMania 31 return on November 3rd. The Raw in Buffalo saw a meeting with Triple H, Vince McMahon, and WWE legend mainstay Rey Mysterio. Nothing definitive came out of it other than Vince wanting Rey back in a WWE ring. While it appears Triple H may be running things from within WWE these, it was apparently clear at the meeting that this was a Vince meeting and that Vince is running the show. There is a belief within the WWE that a compromise will be reached and Rey will be back soon. Working regularly between now and WrestleMania 31, Rey's current contract is scheduled to expire in late April. WWE officials reportedly have asked Rey to work more dates than most think he should. So we'll see what happens there. But for today's hot topic, again, send your email questions to joshuarzimmerman@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CWE Company. Subscribe to our channels. I'll just say channels at this point because we don't know. Like we said when we launched this 2 videos ago, we wanted to keep providing the show, but the way Google and YouTube link, Google Chrome and Google and Gmail and all that stuff, I've had so many different Gmail accounts I can't even keep them straight anymore. It's a simple password issue, and ironically, all the default emails that the password resets are set to go to, I can't get into said emails, so we're going to link that as soon as we can, but it's not going to stop us from bringing you the show. Again, we're on Facebook, both at CWE Company and Wrestle Talk Show. YouTube.com/CWE Company, YouTube.com/Joshua Zimmerman. We're on a lot of different things. Just, I'd say Google the show, WTS Wrestle Talk Show, Joshua Zimmerman, Continental Wrestling Entertainment, whichever one you want, and you're sure to find our content. But today's, as we sign off on this 41-minute show, do you think, or do you want rather, to see Rey Mysterio in action again? And do you believe he will? Email your thoughts or post them on our Facebook pages. We will give you a whole week as of, let's just say, it's 8:53 a.m. Eastern time now. Let's just say voting will start at 9 a.m. and run for a week. So as of the show this time next week, or Thursday or Friday of next week, or over the weekend, we'll tell you when it closes, but just keep posting your thoughts, and as the traffic picks up, we'll decide whether to close it early or run it longer, whichever happens. But are you eager to see Rey Mysterio come back? Do you think he'll come back? This is kind of a contradiction. Wrestling Inc. broke the story, thanks to them. It's kind of a contradiction because he says he doesn't want to come back, but he's obligated to come back because they used the injury clause to extend his contract, so he more or less has to. With all the time he's missed, it's set to expire in April, but they can keep, as far as I knew, as of the last report of this, because of that injury clause, if he doesn't work these shows because of, quote, injury, they can just extend it more because they paid Mysterio to work X amount of days, and he hasn't. He hasn't fulfilled his contractual obligations. Never mind the no-compete clause, this, that, or the other thing. It doesn't really matter. What it boils down to is a professional wrestler needs to be professional, and I don't care if you're not cashing the checks. You signed a contract. Whether or not you want to, like we reported, the last time we reported on this was Mysterio was returning the checks to WWE, not even cashing them, but that just insinuates and says that for some time he has been. So it's only as of recently he's stopped cashing the checks. So you can't take money from your employer and then bitch when they extend your contract because you want to be addicted to things and be injury prone by overextending yourself. When you're as big as he was, the professional wrestling world has given him a lot of success, and this is only from a business standpoint. But Mysterio needs to grow up, finish his time with WWE, however long it runs, whether it runs into the summer of next year, it doesn't matter. Just finish it with him, dude, and retire. We know you're shot. We know you've had relapses with your injuries and substance abuse. It's not a surprise to anyone that follows the wrestling world, but man up and finish it out. That way they can't keep extending your contract if you give them what you've signed on for. And obviously he wanted this originally when he signed the contract, so it's almost mute that he's returning the payments because the contract's still the contract. It just means that he's working for free, which is his own stupidity. But that wraps up today's show, guys. Thanks for the time. As always, it's been fun. And remember, post anything and everything. Remember to put your subject in the email. If you're going to email us a question for the next show, let us know. And we'll be sure to answer them and post them on our Facebook page and on the next show. It's always a pleasure, guys. This is Joshua Zimmerman saying have a great day.